So Katara and Zuko are off to go see their father back home, and Aang is going to the Fire Nation to help Fire Lord Zuko solve this problem of the missing kidnapped children and the missing Tom Tom. So the Smoke and Shadow Part 2 is finally out, and I'm finally getting to it, so thank you so much guys for being patient. I just read it, and of course, as usual, it's amazing to see how these characters progress and change. Bryke never ceases to amaze me. Even though, we've had so many years of Avatar, it just seems like they're still able to keep that essence of their story and their universe going. And I'm really glad to see that the characters themselves are still just as we left them, and they're still experiencing the same life issues that we can all relate to. I think I'm just now realizing that the end of Avatar was really the beginning of Zuko's journey. We thought, okay, well, Zuko had suffered, now he's back at the Fire Nation, he's the Fire Lord now, things are gonna be happy, and we're gonna have a nice happy ending. But as we're seeing, this isn't the case. Zuko has to really prove himself to his people, and I think that was the theme of the last comic, and it's the theme of this one as well. And I feel kind of surprised, really, just because you would think that the Fire Nation people might now realize that Fire Lord Ozai wasn't the nicest person around, and their past Fire Lord before him wasn't the nicest person around, but they seem to be a little less sympathetic than you would think. It's kind of like how people treat the Avatar. You would think because the Avatar is this respected figure, the bridge between the spirit world and the mortal world, you'd think that they have a certain level of respect, but as we've seen throughout the legend of Korra and Avatar: The Last Airbender, Aang and Korra both have those people who come up to them and they just blatantly disrespect them. And I feel like it's kind of the same for Zuko as well. He has to prove himself. People don't trust him yet, and I guess he has to really work and find his place as a leader. He needs to realize that he has to kind of, be more assertive, but it's like a nice balance because Zuko has had an anger problem in the past. He's had to learn to control his emotions, but now he has to be that cool, calm, and collected leader that everyone can put their faith into, and also be that assertive leader who can show strength and give off that aura of protection that everyone needs. They need to look to him and say, okay, well, Zuko is stable, so I can be stable too. And also, I feel like this is a learning experience for Aang because he's learning more about Fire Nation history, Fire Nation culture, and really getting a chance to spend some time with a group of people in the Avatar universe who have been isolated from the rest of the world for a pretty long time. I know they spent some time in the Fire Nation during the 3rd season of Avatar, but now Aang is fully realized, he's defeated the Fire Lord, the atmosphere is different, the political atmosphere is different, so it's nice to see Aang get to come and witness what's going on, and see Zuko in action as well. Zuko has just found out that Mai has gotten a new boyfriend, and of course he's not happy, but he was actually very gracious about it though. He was trying to make conversation with her, he was trying to show that he doesn't really have any hard feelings towards her, and how he really does still miss her, which is a really nice thing to see. Zuko has never really been, an angry person when it comes to that sort of thing. He's actually very caring, and we got to see that kind of come out for him, and he's honestly, trying to get Mai back. Mai has left him, and she still seems to have feelings for him. She loves her boyfriend, but she doesn't really seem to love him as much as she thinks she should. So it seems like Mai still has feelings for Zuko, but she's actually pretty angry with him right now. She feels like Zuko is letting his professional life kind of creep into their personal life, or their old personal life together, and she just wasn't about that. She couldn't take Zuko being the way he was, being under the stress that he was, and keeping things from her. So I feel like their whole relationship really dissolved over a trust issue. This idea of important people having strained relationships seems to be a reoccurring theme in the world of Avatar. We saw it with Aang and Katara with how their children turned out. I think we're going to eventually see it with Korra and Asami when we get to see the rest of their story. And now we're seeing it with Mai and Zuko. It's very difficult to be in positions of power and have that burden on your shoulders all the time, and also take care of your family and have a family life. It reminds me of how the Jedi aren't allowed to have attachments, or at least they used to not be allowed to have attachments. I'm not really sure about the future. And it was because they couldn't completely devote themselves to the causes that they were trying to support if they had a family to deal with. If you have a wife and a child, a husband and a child, uncles, aunts, and people who rely on you, it's difficult for you to devote yourself fully to something, be completely selfless. And I know we're talking about Avatar, but it just makes me think about it, And Zuko is just now realizing how important the people in his life are. And I think, it took him some time over the series, and I think he's already starting to realize it, but he's now really fully seeing how he needs to make sure that his family's alright. He needs to see that his mom and his dad and his sister and his mom can kind of, recreate relationships, mend broken relationships. He wants to reconnect with Azula again. And it seems like Azula might have been seeing Kiyi in the past with how, she's kind of portraying herself or hiding behind the mask, trying to pretend that she's one of the spirits that's ravaging the town. It also reminds me of a line from Justice League Unlimited, and it was when Amanda Waller was talking to Terry McGinnis, who is the new Batman in Batman and Beyond, and she says, if you want to have a better life than Bruce Wayne, your old man's, take care of the people who love you, or don't, it's your choice. And I feel like that's very true for this comic as well. You gotta make sure that things are alright at home before you can make sure that things are alright in the rest of the world and with your other responsibilities. We also got to see the Fire Sages again, and I also thought it was really interesting how they mentioned that Zuko hasn't visited for meditation and that kind of thing. I had always thought that the Fire Sages were always about preserving the history of the Fire Nation and, making sure that all those other types of things were taken care of, but I think we see now in this comic that they're also helpful to the royal family when it comes to spiritual issues and, spiritual health, and I feel like maybe that could be good for Zuko, someone who has a very hot-headed personality, who might be under lots of stress all the time. Maybe having someone to teach him some meditation techniques or, some spiritual techniques might, be, beneficial to him in the future and maybe help him lead a more peaceful, comfortable life internally. I think it really stinks that Iroh isn't around anymore, and of course he's still there, he's still at his tea shop, he's still alive and kicking. Everything is good when it comes to Iroh's well-being, but I mean, it stinks that Iroh isn't directly by Zuko's side, just because I feel like he needs a lot of guidance right now. Aang, he has his past lives, and that's sort of what they're there for. He can always call back on them and say, hey guys, I'm having this issue, I'm not really sure what to do, I'm not sure if any of you guys have faced this before, but if you have any advice, that'd be super helpful. But Zuko doesn't really have that. He has his uncle, but he doesn't really want to bother him so much, and everyone in the Fire Nation who was supposed to be in a leadership position like his father is kind of, on the other side of the fence. They're not exactly on the light side, so he can only get so much advice from them. So he has to figure out a lot of this stuff for himself, and I feel like he's doing his best right now, but it'd be nice to see him get some other type of mentor figure of some kind, to come into his life and maybe give him, a few tips here and there. This might sound pretty weird, but if and when Azula comes back to the good side, I'm saying when just because, I want to be optimistic, but when Azula comes back, I feel like she might be just that person that Zuko needs, because unlike Zuko, she's very calculated, and she's used that to her advantage, and she's done very bad things with special talents, but I feel like, her very calculating and very clinical, mathematical mind might serve Zuko very well in the future when he needs someone to be his advisor or help him with strategies of that kind. Zuko, he seems to be a little bit more spontaneous, and even though he's got brains, he's got intelligence, Azula is on another level when it comes to that sort of thing. So when she does come back to the good side, and hopefully when she and Zuko fix their relationship and mend those broken parts of their family, I feel like, she could be a real asset to him in the future. Well guys, hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for waiting for me to get this out. I know it took a long time. Plus, we live in a dangerous world, so please guys, take care of yourselves, and I'll hope to see you guys when I see you.